Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we play a game of Rock, Paper, Plasma Beam. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm looking at the table where we're set up here.
Yes.
And we have index cards prepared for our episode tonight, and half of them are in blue and half of them are in orange. It just struck me like it looks like a movie poster for any action-adventure movie made in the past, 20 years. But that has that strong, Michael Bay blue and orange going on.
I see. So just in the color scheme you were thinking.
Yeah, just in the color scheme.
I was trying to imagine a movie poster that was just index cards on a wall. And I was like, I don't know, was that what the number 27 looked like?
Right.
Number 23?
Oh,
what even is the name of that movie? I don't know.
I think it's 23.
I think that's right.
I think it's 23.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll never look it
up. We will, in fact, never look it up. But it's exciting. We need to be organized because we are going to be ranking all of Samus's power-ups in Metroid Dread, which I'm very excited about. But before we get to that, my copy of Sonic Forces. Would you like to borrow it? You can try. You can get on a list. You can, put yourself out there. Try and get some Sonic Forces. All you gotta do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. Give us a mailing address. We send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. Maybe there's a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there. I don't know. It's something that might happen. You can play that or not play that and send it back. It's the exact same thing, except it's with Untitled Goose Game. And it is, of course, the perfect borrowing program.
Yeah, it costs you nothing.
Nothing.
Patrick pays for postage there and includes a return envelope for it to come back. Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate it so much. If you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, the US Apple Podcast Store will give you a shout out on the show. If you leave us a review or, share the show or favorite the show any other way, definitely let us know through email or Twitter. We'd love to give you a shout out. Patrick and I love reading the reviews. It helps people find the shows. So thank you to everybody who has done so and anybody who will do so in the future.
And honestly, thanks to the people who haven't done it yet and who probably won't do it. Thank you for listening anyway.
Yeah, that's
Let's
right.
just thank everyone.
Sure. Yep.
But it would be a more sincere thank you. A more heartfelt.
I hesitate to say that because is it possible for us to be more sincere?
I don't. We're sounding less sincere as we go. All right, Mark. Let's get into it. Let's rank some power-ups. Metroid Dread, as we know, came out about a month ago at this point.
Yeah.
I have played through it twice. And I was so close, or I thought I was so close to getting in under the. When you beat the game, you can either do it in over 8 hours, between 8 and 4 hours, or under 4 hours. And if you are under 4 hours, that's where you get the best ending rewards. And there was a little bit there where I was like, I'm gonna get this bad boy in under 4 hours. But then I was like, I hit a save point and checked my time, and it was 3 hours and 58 minutes and 12 seconds. And I was like, I'm so far away from finishing this game. So yeah, I was almost 5 by the time I finished.
But I mean, that's still pretty good. Do you think if you did another time that you could shave an hour off of that?
Probably. Probably. I'm sure there were some parts that I was being kind of sloppy about it. But the game is so driven by, as all Metroid games are, right? Your ability to progress is sort of walled off behind power-ups that the original Metroid and Super Metroid especially sort of pioneered this lock and key system where your items allow you access to new areas by you using them. And so we've got all of those items here on the board, and just to we'll run down what's on here. But the kinds of things that aren't here, energy tanks aren't on here.
Right.
Missiles, because you start with them, so like missile upgrade packs or any of like the partial energy tank upgrades. But everything else is on here.
And be forewarned.
Yes. Oh yes.
While we are not like specifically going out of our way to spoil the game, we will be talking about it freely. So anything
Yes.
that comes up in the game is fair play. Also, I haven't beat it yet.
Right. Mark has not beaten it. So I'm actually going to try to. Mark is right at the end boss.
Yeah.
And I will try not to refer to events that happen after that fight. But Mark, if I do, I do.
I mean, hey.
And I'm sorry.
I warned everybody, and everybody includes me.
Oh, I see. So you consider yourself warned. You are now proceeding with caution. If I start spoiling something, you're going to turn off the podcast?
No, I'm saying that by participating,
I see.
I know that there is potential
There's
for me to
danger
be spoiled.
for you here. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I will do what I can.
But I live for danger. It's kind of my thing, so I'm not too worried about it.
So we have got all 22 power-ups listed here. We had them in some sort of order, but they have fallen out of order. So we are just going to read them across the top of the page here, and they'll be in no particular order. The plasma beam,
Spin boost,
grapple beam,
flash shift,
storm rockets,
ice missile,
morph ball,
Varia suit,
gravity suit,
power bomb,
charge beam,
spider magnet,
cross bomb,
wave beam,
phantom cloak,
wide beam,
screw attack,
space jump,
diffusion beam,
speed booster,
super missile,
morph ball bomb.
Okay. So we've got all of those laid out on the table. There may be a little bit where we need to like talk through what individual power-ups do. But I think I want to just like start with like some kind of broad strokes here. Are there easy like kind of crappy power-ups where you're like, I'm not even sure I knew what that one did, or items that you weren't excited to get when you got them?
So, there's a couple on here that I feel like were underutilized. Like,
Okay.
not necessarily that they're crappy,
Right.
but that they like. I just don't feel like they were put to their full use in the game. Because one of the things that I felt very strongly in this game, and I think that was one of the reasons why I felt like Metroid Dread really captured a lot of the magic of what I want in a Metroid game, is that when I got power-ups, I was always excited.
Yes.
Because I felt like it really did a very good job of building that sense of like progression where you're like, yeah, like I am getting more powerful with each of these. Like I become more of a threat. Like at the very beginning of the game, Emmys were scary.
Yeah.
And by the end, I was not necessarily looking forward to encountering an Emmy, but I wasn't worried about being able to like
Right.
like
you were like, oh, I'll be able to figure this out. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and I think the game also does just an impeccable job of pacing out these power-ups where the game starts and they feel few and far between, right? Where you are not like becoming like demonstrably more powerful with each passing minute. But towards the end of the game, you are getting some of the most powerful power-ups in the game, sort of one right after the other.
Yeah.
And like you fall on the gravity suit, the space jump, and the screw attack, kind of one right after another, like within the same half hour or so of play. And like just getting those, you become so much more mobile. You become so much more of a threat to any enemy, regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
And so it just feels very cool the way it ramps that up.
I also think that, there are some of these power-ups that I don't know, when we're going through this it'll be interesting because some of them are just like so iconic for Metroid as a franchise.
Yes.
And cuz all of these I don't think well actually there might be a couple of these that are new to Metroid Dread.
Some of them, I think a handful are new. I think some of them are renamed versions of other things.
Okay.
Or that have like similar powers of things in previous games, and I'm not going to be able to remember.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure.
What is what? I'll tell you if something's in Super Metroid because I'll know that for sure.
Okay, so the one that I feel like is really underutilized that comes to mind immediately is the ice missile.
Ice missile is a little bit of a bummer. I'll agree with you on that, especially because it is not like you're never freezing things to like jump on them.
No, which I felt like was so surprising. But I will say that Metroid Dread in general does not play with verticality in the same way that like Super Metroid
Yeah, that's
does.
interesting.
Like there are spaces where you have to space jump for sure. But there are not, like you were saying, like platforming where like I have to freeze enemies and make it over
Right,
like
right.
in the amount of time before they unfreeze. Really, I feel like the most I used ice missiles for was when those little space slugs would slide down the wall and cover a door, and then I would just like
Right.
ice, missile them until they died. It just felt like not that useful, not that important.
Yeah, well, and it's also, one of the things that like happens with both missiles and beams is that they just sort of like pile on top of each other, right? Like you start with just your regular old beam, and then you have the charge beam, and then you have the wide beam, which you can also charge,
Right.
and then like the diffusion beam, which is also chargeable and is wide. So like it's just sort of like one more ability on top of it.
Uh-huh.
So like the ice missile is just a super missile that also freezes stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good point because like a lot of these, like the ice missile, for example, you don't do anything. There's no button combination that you engage
Right.
to use the ice missile. It's just like no, it just becomes your default missile at that point.
So to that end, should we talk about the super missile in the same breath? Because
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing, except it doesn't freeze stuff.
right.
So I almost feel like it should be below the ice missile, but I think just sort of putting these in the like least utilized, because there might be something to be said for like the ice missile that there's like a potential there that's not utilized.
Right.
One thing that I do like about the ice missile is freezing something with an ice missile and then meleeing it so it shatters is very satisfying.
Yeah, it is. It is very satisfying. In general, I feel like the melee attack is used way better in
Yes.
this game
Mhm.
than it was in Samus Returns because it doesn't slow down your motion. It becomes
Oh my
like
God,
a part of it.
A running
Yeah.
melee is just the best, and then you like slide or whatever. Oh, it's so good.
Also, to your point about like the different way that you engage, like certain types of missiles or whatever later in the game. This Metroid Dread does have like by the end it's like a fairly complex moveset.
Totally.
Like it is a lot.
That you're using all the buttons on the
It is a
controller.
lot to remember.
Mhm.
Like in Super Metroid, it's like you pause, you change what you're doing, and then you like go back. Here, it's like no, you have to like remember to like hold R, but not but if you
Yeah.
hold it for like a short amount of time, it does this. If you hold it for a long amount of time, it does this. Like it definitely does get complex.
Yeah, and like anytime that you are like swinging on the grapple beam and you have to like let go and grab another like grapple beam point, you have to like hold L so that you're free aiming, but then also hold R2 so that
Oh,
you're using
yeah.
the grapple beam.
They must have known it because you do not have to use the grapple beam that often as like to swing
Right.
yourself across. Like in Super Metroid, you do it fairly often, which I hated. I
Yeah,
hated it
in
in Super
Super Metroid.
Metroid. I did not like it here, and so I'm glad that you didn't have to. Sorry, I've been excited. I've been waiting to talk about this game in more detail on the
Right,
show.
right.
So like, it's just it is a ranking, but we're just going to be talking Metroid Dread too.
Yeah, I mean, of course. But let's talk about the grapple beam like right now. Because I do feel like I can think of maybe like 2 or 3 places where you are like genuinely swinging from it.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, it's kind of just a different key to open like doors or pull blocks, right?
Yeah, which I do like the feeling.
Yeah, I like the feeling too.
Like it has like a weird like. I don't think the controller rumbles or anything, but there is like a.
It probably does.
There is
Why
like
wouldn't it?
but there is like a compelling like.
You can sense how
tactile,
many
like,
ice
feel
cubes
to
are in it.
like tactile feeling to it,
Mhm.
which I did like. I feel like really what you use it more is like a Batman like grapple hook.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
you need to get to like a certain area, and it's not swinging across. It is just, oh, I need to grapple at this angle to get
Sure.
up to this platform.
Yeah. And like, so for mobility sake, like it's fine, not great. You never really feel like powerful when you're doing it.
Yeah.
I also wish there was some sort of like any kind of combat application for it but there really isn't. Like you can't like pull an enemy in and like make them stagger
Which
or
would have
anything
been
like that.
so cool if you could like pull an enemy and then like
And
melee
smack them
them.
with the melee.
Yeah.
Ah, that'd be good. Well, okay. Should we? Is the grapple beam like in the same class as the missile, a super missile and ice missile, or is it maybe in a higher class?
For whatever reason, I have more fondness for the grapple beam.
Okay.
And so at least for now, I think of it more in the nebulous middle at this point.
Yeah.
Definitely, because I feel like it has more utility than the ice missile, or well, actually, I shouldn't even say more utility because you definitely use the super missile and the ice missile more. I
Yeah.
guess it just has more novelty. I think and care about it more than
Yeah.
I think or care about the super missile or the ice missile.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But the ice missile definitely cooler than the super missile, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another one I'll put forth as like I don't really care about that much is the cross bomb, which kind of just ends up being a bomb with explosion lines that go like higher up, down, left, and right, but it doesn't actually like create a. It's not like a circular explode. Like it's one that kind of messes with my head, and I don't really. I've never used one except for in the specific instances where the game is like you need to use it to get past this point.
Yeah, and I feel like where I ended up using cross bombs the most is, there would be certain missile packs
Mm-hmm.
or things like that you had to use the cross bomb to access. And so that's really the most, other than like, you fall into the hole, you get the cross bomb upgrade from the Chozo
Right.
statue,
Now
and then
you
you have
get
to
out
use
of it by using the
exactly.
crossbow.
Yeah. Other than that, I cannot recall the time where I like thoughtfully use the cross bomb to solve a puzzle or something.
Speaking of, I realized that we are missing a power up on this list.
Oh.
What is it called when you hold the button on the D-pad and you can see breakable blocks?
Oh,
It's like a radar thing.
That's right. Yes.
I'm gonna search for it right now by typing in radar thing.
Yeah, that's a good
Metroid
point.
Dread.
And I used that power up quite a bit.
And that is one that's a holdover from. It's called Radar Pulse or Pulse Radar. Sorry. That's a carryover from Samus Returns, and was super useful in that game. Okay, great. Mark, we now have 23 items on the list.
Well, okay. Since that was a great catch, I hate doing debugs, and that would have been a debug.
It would have had to be, yeah.
But no, Pulse Radar. One thing I like about it is it does show you where the breakable blocks are in the area, but it doesn't tell you how you break them.
Right.
Like there is still a sense of mystery. Like how do I access them?
Right.
You can see like, oh, it's like 4 squares like deep into this wall, so there must be something that I'm missing.
Right. It also won't show you what are blocks that you can just pass through.
Yeah.
So like there is still quite a solid like sense of mystery even when using the pulse radar. But man, is it handy to be like to walk into a room and be like, I don't really know what to do here. Pulse radar.
Yeah, especially on the mini map, an area will pulse if there's like a item in there that you can get, and then it's useful to go in and be like, oh, I've been through this room like 4 times, just like in playing the game, never saw anything, so let me pulse radar to try to get a sense of what's in here.
Is that what the like pulsing room thing is? Oh my gosh, I was never able to figure that out.
Yeah, so when you the only reason I figured this out was because after I couldn't beat the final boss, I did go back and was trying to collect items, and so I
were you mainly going back for more power bombs? Be honest.
I was going back for more power bombs and more energy tanks.
Okay.
Because I was trying to go in with more health.
Yeah.
Like a couple more like bars of health. But anyways, yeah. So when I was like when I was looking at guides to figure out like where some of the items were, they all talked about that's what the pulsing meant on the mini map, is that there was an item like in that area.
Well, I will remember that for my third playthrough. So we were in the middle of talking about the cross bomb, and how I don't much care for it. I think I have like 2 more candidates for items in this game that I felt pretty like lackluster about, and they are the so the spin boost, which is just a single like double jump, right? It's sort of the precursor to the space jump, and kinda I don't care about it because like I don't want just one extra jump. I want to keep jumping. But I can be talked out of that. And the Varia suit, because I felt like I was almost never in hot areas before I got the Varia suit, and then I was just like, oh, okay, now I'm fine.
I don't think that the Various suit is like one of the great items in the game, but I personally felt like there were times where I would go into a really hot section and
So hot.
and then I would be like, "Oh, I'll have to come back here later." Like
Sure.
I did think earlier in the game they teased you with it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got the Various suit, I was immediately like, "Oh, I can now go back and like explore those areas." One thing that I feel like Metroid Dread did a good job of and I could see why people would not like this, but for the way I like to play games, like I did like it, where it wasn't so much like, oh, I got the Various suit, let me now like backtrack all the way to like the
Yes.
first area where there's a corridor that was hot that I couldn't get to before. I felt like for like 60% of the items in the game, you are just kind of naturally taken back to those areas.
Yeah,
And
totally.
then for the other like 40, percent, you do have to go out of your way, like
You can make
really out of
special
your
trips,
way
yeah.
to do it. But otherwise, the game like loops back, like folds back in on itself enough that you're close enough to it that you do have to go out of your way. It's not like the game like funnels you to those areas.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're like, okay, I'm way on the other side of the planet. Now let me backtrack all the way to
Right, to like progress what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, okay, so maybe we don't have any kind of consensus there. I think all we really know right now is that the bottom of our list, in some order, is going to be the cross bomb, the ice missile, and the super missile.
Yeah.
Do you have another candidate for possible
The
bottom of
charge
the list?
beam, I don't. The charge beam falls under the same sort of thing as like the ice missile for me, where it is different in that you have to choose to hold
Right.
R to charge.
No,
R?
no, you the fire button.
Oh, the fire
so whatever
button
that
to
is.
charge. Yeah.
The X
Sure.
or Y, one of them, the left button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To charge, but it really
Here's the thing
I
with the
just
charge
don't-
beam.
I just don't care about it that much.
Here's the thing with the charge beam, where I will defend it, is that Samus using it of her own volition is some of the coolest, just like Samus attitude moments in the game.
Oh,
Like when she stumbles upon Kraid and he's like chained up to this wall, and she kind of like struts in like, oh, I gotta deal with this Joker again, and he's like, pulling on these restraints and like roaring at her, and his mouth is like right there, and she like points her thing there, is like charge. It's just very cool in a way that I don't think any of the other beams get a chance to be like characterized in that way.
So, sidebar.
Yeah.
Do we need to have Samus's weird like pink hand energy on
Sure,
this list?
her like Metroid power.
Yeah, because you don't use it in the game,
Right.
but
So
she gets it and has like
right.
when you
Does some things with it.
Uh-huh.
Well, here are the other things that we are not including on this list, at least at the moment. The Omega, the
Oh yeah, I think that's fair not to include
Right.
because it's just like a temporary like surge that you get.
right. So, and then there is also, after you beat like the first couple forms of Ravenbeak, the final boss, Samus takes on like a new form and has a new weapon. And we are not counting those here either, because they're not like collectibles in the game, right? Like they're sort of temporary, and even going into the end of the game, it is stripped away before like the narrative is over. So, and the same is also true of Samus's kind of like Metroid glowy arm thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's I think you could debate that we should put them on here, but I almost feel like we have just the like gameplay things on here.
Yeah, the ones that like a user can activate, or like a player can like activate and like. Also, we should explain the Omega Cannon, I think it's called, or whatever it is
Yeah.
that you get.
Well, is it cannon and beam? Because it always refers to them as two separate things, even though they come together.
Right.
So yeah, there's every time you encounter an Emmy, which are these robot sentries that are chasing you around and are unkillable until you get this special item, which you get from like a mother brain like.
Omega Stream and Omega Cannon?
That sounds right.
Okay.
And so the Omega Stream is like a rapid fire like shooting of like pellets or something that you use to like overheat the Emmy's faceplate, and thus exposing like the core of it. And then the cannon, the Omega Cannon, is where you charge up a single shot and blast that exposed core.
Yeah, and one of the cool things in the game is that the first time you encounter this like Mother Brain-esque mini boss, at least I felt like it was challenging. And then by the end, you encounter it and you're like, whatever.
Yeah, like I'm
just
gonna
blowing
roll this
through
thing.
it.
Yeah.
And also what's interesting is when you have like to defeat the Emmy, you have to kind of like find the right spot in the Emmy's environment. So there's a little bit of like puzzle solving where you're like,
Totally.
the Emmy's chasing you, and at the same time you're trying to figure out like, where is there enough space? Where will I like force the Emmy to like funnel through and slow down
Right.
that I have enough time to both like use the Omega Pulse and then charge up my beam without the Emmy like getting close enough to capture me.
Right. Well, and usually I would do it in two phases. So I would do the get rid of its faceplate and then like run away again. But yeah, I love the way that it is puzzle solving, but is using your previous knowledge of the space that you just ran through, avoiding the Emmy, to now like like you said, like funnel it into small spaces and make it slow down. That's all very cool. That item is not on our list.
So, I do think the pulse radar, we just added it. To me, I don't know that it'll end up this low, but I feel comfortable for now putting it just above the cross bomb. Maybe even, probably above the cross bomb.
Okay, let's put it there at least for now. And then I'll put forth something that we only talked about a little bit, and now of course I'm forgetting. Oh, the plasma beam. Because the plasma beam,
oh yeah,
while a powerful beam in its own right, doesn't like change the physical characteristics of Samus's shot, right? Like the wide beam makes it those three things. The charge, you charge it up, obviously. The diffusion beam has an effect on the other side of a wall, and the wave beam shoots all the way through a wall. But the plasma beam is just a more powerful version of her existing beam.
Yeah, because there's no like special, to my memory, any like special like enemy types that react differently to the plasma beam. Like you're saying, it is just more powerful.
Yeah, there might be some of the machines, like some of the robots that you otherwise need to use like missiles to damage, that the plasma beam like will damage. But I don't know. Like to me, it's almost just like a wide beam +1 or something.
Yeah,
like,
the beams in general are difficult because you just start taking it for granted because you don't have to do anything special. It's just like, no, this just becomes your upgraded gun.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I already went to bat for the charge beam, but the wide beam, I really like not having to have like pinpoint accuracy once you get that thing where you're just like, I'm gonna shoot in the direction of a monster and I'm gonna hit it. Sometimes I'm gonna hit it 3 times, but sometimes I'm just gonna hit it with like one little beam and that's fine.
I also liked, for whatever reason, I found it very satisfying to use it to hit the entryways that needed like the 3 beams in order
it's
to
very
move
satisfying.
I really liked that.
In previous Metroid games, this is called the Spazer beam. I don't know why they changed from. Well, first of all, I don't know why it was called Spazer in the first place.
Yeah, maybe that's why they changed it.
But
like
wide beam is so funny to me. Like, it's not wide; it's just there's 3 of them, and
that's the guy who stars on the Blacklist, James Spazer.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I thought James Widebeam. So I like the wide beam. I think we'll talk about it later. Let's see what else we got on here. Charge beams, spin boost.
I mean, I think the charge beam could go anywhere in here at this point.
Okay,
I'm
still holding holding out hope on it a
Oh,
little bit.
for the charge beam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, I feel like it does such a great job of expressing Samus's personality.
Well, let's talk about the spider magnet for a little bit.
Yeah.
So the spider magnet you get fairly early
So early.
in the game, like kind of like like you get it before you get the morph ball.
You get a lot of things before you get the morph ball.
Yes.
I mean, we've been holding out on this for a while, but this is one of my favorite things about the game is that every other Metroid game is like, what do you want? The morph ball? It's here right away. It is in your toolkit from the get-go. But in this one, you're playing the game for like an hour and a half.
And when you get it,
yes,
it's so satisfying.
So satisfying.
Yeah,
and they already let you jump around in it too, which is nice.
So but the spider magnet, it is nice when you get it, to be able to. So in the game there are these like neon blue sections that you have to have that are like on walls or on ceilings, and you have to have the spider magnet ability to be able to like hold onto it, and you can kind of like monkey bar across it. And so getting it is a mini morph ball, like endorphin hit.
Yeah.
Where when you get it, it's one of, to my memory, one of the first like big mobility improvements in the game. And so getting it does feel nice, but you just kind of like, you just begin to take it for granted. Like it doesn't do anything special.
You get it early enough that it feels like table stakes.
Yeah.
Like if we were ranking like previous Metroid power-ups, this is probably about where I would put like the high jump boots.
Right.
Where like it's great when you didn't have them and like, oh, now you can jump higher. But it's like, yeah, but then you're just like, oh yeah, I jump higher because the game makes me jump higher. Spider Magnet, same thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I feel like Spin Boost is in that same
yes
category where you're just like, okay, like it is nice to have it, but
it was really more annoying that I didn't already have it.
You totally begin to take it for granted.
Okay, so let's put the spider magnet maybe above the plasma beam.
Okay.
And then do we want to go the spin boost right above that? You like the spin boost?
No, I like the spider magnet more than I like the spin boost.
Okay, well then I will agree with that. So spin boost we are slotting in above plasma beam, below spider magnet, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just review what we have left here. We have so many left.
Yeah.
Okay, so things that we already mentioned is sort of like crappier power-ups, and at this point nothing is really crappy, but the Varia Suit, the grapple beam, and I guess you mentioned the charge beam before.
The charge beam doesn't do anything for me. I would be fine putting the Varia Suit and the grapple beam somewhere in the mix about this point, I think.
Okay, so let's go Varia Suit next, and again this is the suit that
Whoa, you like the grapple beam more than you like the Varia Suit?
Yeah, I mean there's the tactile feeling of like opening the grapple beam doors.
That's true. Also, there's something again that I really liked about turning your beam blue and being like, "Ah, baby, I'm in grapple mode now."
That is very cool.
Yeah.
To be like, "Oh, baby." I also think that there is the color scheme on Samus in this game, especially right at the beginning, is so specific. She's in all these like jewel tones, right? It's a palette that she's never really been in before, and the Varia Suit kind of dials it back to like the Super Metroid duller oranges, and it's sort of like on top of the gemstone, the gem tones, and I feel like that evens back out when you get the gravity suit, and like purples are sort of restored to it.
Yeah.
So it kind of messes with the aesthetic, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then the grapple beam we have right on top of that. At this point, I'm fine putting the charge beam. I think it expresses her personality very well. But just about every other beam and item on here is like more kind of cool and novel. Although let's maybe bring up the just the beams in general. Wave beam, diffusion beam, and charge beam are the ones that we have in here.
Yeah.
Oh, and the wide beam.
Yeah, I just don't feel like any of the beams can be that high on the list.
I mean, the wave beam though, when you are just like, walls are no barrier anymore, and I can shoot you, I don't care where you are, is very empowering.
It is empowering. It definitely makes a difference. in just like mowing through enemies, like moving through rooms really quickly.
Yeah. Can we just do like an internal ranking of
Yeah.
of the
Oh,
beams?
yeah, that's a great idea. That's a
So
great idea.
I mean, obviously we've got the
Plasma beam down
plasma
there.
beam is pretty far down, but now I think let's just figure out where the rest of them go in relation to each other, and then we can sort of maybe marry them together with the rest of the list. One more almost. Yeah. Okay. So, wave beam, charge beam, wide beam, diffusion beam. So I think diffusion beam is at the bottom, right?
Yeah, probably.
It's fun. It is interesting when you start to like hit enemies from the other side of the wall. Even though like there's not a lot of range to it.
Now, remind me, is the diffusion beam the one that also like you can use to blow up parts of the wall? Like there are parts of the wall that are like have little like pink specks in them.
Yeah, you can
then,
always do that if you can shoot the pink part of it. But
sometimes later the pink part becomes like embedded
it's just on the other side of it. Yeah. So it does allow you to access more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm fine with the diffusion beam being the lowest in this internal ranking.
Right, of just these 4 beams.
Yeah.
So then wide beam, charge beam, wave beam. Maybe the wide beam is better than the charge beam, just because it's satisfying to open those like 3-lock things.
It is. I do think it is satisfying. Okay, one thing that bugs me about the wave beam is it doesn't move in a sign pattern.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I mean, we are bucking tradition with the. Okay, you know what? Wave beam, you're being demoted.
I don't know why
I don't know above diffusion beam.
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
This internal ranking is funny because like, it's like diffusion beam, but still better than a couple of other beams on our list.
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
But yeah, wave beam. I don't know. That really bugged me. That
Yeah.
like there was no like that it behaved basically like a normal beam.
Yeah, I mean, does it make the because it's you only get it after you get the wide beam. So, but do those like 3 beams move at all, or
not to my memory?
Yeah, I don't think so either. So it just like behaves like the additional part of the.
So I think I've come
beam.
around on this, and I think charge beam maybe is my favorite of these 4.
There we go. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for coming around my way of thinking.
Can we talk about the power bomb for a moment?
Yeah.
Because it is simultaneously very powerful and also almost completely useless.
Of extremely limited use.
Because by the time you get it, it is very late in the game.
Yeah.
And really, so the power bomb, you like charge it up when you're in the
when you're in the
morph
ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you and then you deploy it, and it's this big like yellow pulse that destroys everything in the room. In theory, and can open destroy blocks that haven't been able to be destroyed before and all that kind of stuff. So you get this, and you're like, yes, I'm going to decimate. But you get it so late in the game that it's of really limited utility, because you go into the final boss, and it can do some things in the final boss, but it's not like it's that powerful against him, right?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that it is super useful for in the final boss is that he has an attack, 2 different attacks, where like he sets this like orb loose, and you have to deal with the orb, otherwise it's gonna like smoke you, right? And the easiest way to get rid of it is to just drop a power bomb.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. I went back for power bombs,
right,
to aid me in
which
my
is
next
why
attempt.
I asked you to be honest.
Yeah,
before.
in my next attempt, because I went in with like 3 or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And now I have 6 or maybe 7. So but it just bugs me that they give you this like item that's like, holy crap, this is so like powerful, but it's so nerfed in its actual utility that it's like, well, why? I don't know. It feels overhyped.
Okay, I'll agree, and I think we can maybe slot this in above the grapple beam. Although at this point, I kind of think that we should put the diffusion beam somewhere from our internal ranking, from its mini ranking, like into the list proper. Maybe just above grapple beam, maybe even below grapple beam. What do you prefer, the diffusion beam or the grapple beam?
I have such difficulty remembering which one the diffusion beam is. Like every time we bring it,
It's the one that hits on the other side.
every time we say, I have to remind myself. Right. So I think for that reason, it has to go below.
Below grapple.
In fact, maybe. Am I crazy if I say it goes below
Spider Magnet? I think that's right. We both said it at the same time. How can it be wrong? Okay, so. All right, there we go. The diffusion beam is now between the spin boost and the Spider Magnet. All right. Power Bomb is currently the top of our list. Let's just review what we have.
Yeah, good idea.
Both in play and what the ranking is so far. So from the bottom, it goes Super Missile,
Ice Missile,
Cross Bomb,
Pulse Radar,
Plasma Beam,
Spin Boost,
Diffusion Beam,
Spider Magnet,
Varia Suit,
Grapple Beam,
Power Bomb. And then we have a little side ranking of just beams that have yet to be woven into the rest of it. At the bottom of that is the Wave Beam.
Then Wide Beam.
And then the Charge Beam at the top. And then the other power-ups still in play, yet really even to be discussed, are the Storm Rockets, the Gravity Suit, the Screw Attack, the Space Jump, the Morph Ball, the Phantom Cloak, the Speed Booster, the Morph Ball Bomb, and the Flash Shift.
And I don't think all of the ones that are still in play are going to end up like as high as they are on the list necessarily. We just haven't really gotten to them yet.
Right. We'll sort of revise them down, but go ahead, Mark.
So as we're reviewing the ones that we've already ranked, I personally kind of feel like Power Bomb should be lower.
Okay. Where do you think so I think it's better than the Spider Magnet.
I do think it's better than the Spider Magnet.
I think
actually maybe it's, I feel like it has honestly less utility than the Grapple Beam or the Varia Suit.
Yeah, I think it has less utility, but like, I don't know, the spectacle of it is just so pleasing. I could see putting it below the Grapple Beam, but I think it's better, whatever that means, better than the Varia Suit.
Okay. Yeah, I like that because I think that I prefer that the Grapple Beam gives you like more mobility than the Power Bomb. I just think is a disappointment. Maybe I'm bitter because I have not beat the final boss yet, and I just
just don't know how to use the Power Bomb yet.
I just want the Power Bomb to help me out a little bit more, but it is what it is.
I mean, here's something about the Power Bomb, and you know me, I'm an idiot and a Super Metroid purist, but you get the Power Bomb like halfway through Super Metroid, and it is also kind of limited utility, but you can use it for some very strange things, including there are ways when you are critically injured to plant a Power Bomb and gain health from it. And just like all these weird little mysteries about the Power Bomb and the way it works in the environment that are very intriguing and fun and interesting. And I feel like there's not a lot of, well, there's fanfare to getting it. There is not a lot of like mystery in using it.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you sort of teased that there may be some of these that we haven't addressed yet that may be lower on the list. Are there any that you were thinking of when you said that?
I'm thinking of Flash Shift.
Oh man, we might fight on this one. I loved getting the Flash Shift. The Flash Shift for me felt like I was playing a modern Metroid-like game. It felt like I was getting a power-up in of course, Cyber Shadow or Shovel Knight or that other ninja game that I really liked. Messenger, yes. It felt like I was playing it was a kind of power-up that I feel like Metroid had always been missing, and I love using it in combat.
Yes, I think that's really where it shines. So the Flash Shift, the Flash Shift is cool. So basically, you press A.
I believe that's correct.
I think that's right. You press A and then you like go left or right with the direction stick. I guess you can you go up and down?
No, just left and right. Yeah.
And it like phases you really quickly, and so you move, a good distance when you engage it. And so like
it's like a dash basically.
Yeah. In the Emmy
but you
rooms,
can chain them together too, so that you dash like 3 times in a row.
Yes.
Up to 3 times.
And in the Emmy rooms, there's like these doors that if it senses your presence, they close. And so the only real way to get past it is to like dash through it, Flash Shift through it. But I agree with you that where it is very cool is in combat, in theory, because I never remembered to
Oh,
use it.
Mark, you gotta. I honestly, the second I got the flash shift, I was like, oh, this whole game is different now. Like that, especially like taking on, because there are times where you fight like Chozo warriors, either silver or gold or both of them together, or sometimes the like X Parasite version of them. And I am phase shifting or flash shifting all the time in those fights. My Aeon power or whatever it is always at 0 charging back
Okay.
up. Because that is like the only way I move around, especially because you can do those dashes in the air.
Right.
So you jump up to like, just get out of the way of whatever attack and then dash to a space where it'll be safe to land.
So maybe that's why it's not that high on the list for me, just because it's like I haven't used it to its
Mark,
full potential.
you gotta use it.
Well, will it help me in the final boss?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, then something to consider.
Especially when he's like flying around.
Uh-huh.
He's got a move where he like just starts like kind of sweeping around in a
Yeah,
circle with
yeah.
a beam. And if you are flash shifting, like all you gotta do is like jump up and then like flash shift over him and then fall to the ground, flash shift under him, jump up.
Oh, I
flash
was just
shift
like
over him.
space jumping around him.
I mean, you got to do both, but like the flash shift, as soon as you're moving horizontally, the flash shift is way more effective than the space jump.
Okay.
Truly one of my favorite power-ups in the game. If I were just doing this by myself, it would be number 1, I think.
Okay.
But did you have another one that you want me to screw with you on?
Morph Ball Bomb. I don't feel that strongly about. I love the Morph Ball. It will probably go fairly high on this list. The Morph Ball Bomb, I don't have feelings on, really.
Yeah, and I think we can probably even put it lower on this list than maybe at least the grapple beam. I don't know if it goes further down.
It's a little table stakesy where you're just like,
absolutely.
It's cool when you get it. It's nice. It definitely opens up more areas. You don't use it that much on enemies or anything. It's just kind of like a thing that you need because it's a Metroid game, and it's not bad. It has utility, but it's not exciting.
Yeah. Well, and it is, and it's one of those things where you're like, why do I need to bomb these little like pneumatic tubes to like
make
me go through
and
them?
I feel like it's the same reason why there's little slugs that cover the door and you have to use the ice beams on them.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's a thing.
Right. Yes, it's a thing. So okay, let's find a home for the Morph Ball Bomb. Which again, it's a classic, right? This one dates all the way back to the original Metroid. But we don't like it that much. So where are we going here? Okay, below the grapple beam.
Below the grapple beam, I think.
Below power bomb?
I just don't really like the power bomb that much.
Yeah, you don't like the obligation. It's making you collect a bunch of them. It doesn't even help you that much.
Yeah, but that's probably right. Like, okay, gut check. Diffusion beam. Which one do you like better?
Morph Ball Bomb.
Okay, Spider Magnet.
I think for me this is where it lives.
Okay, I feel fine
here.
about that. So maybe I mean I like the Varia Suit more than I like the Morph Ball Bomb because I like being able to go back into like the hot areas. Like I like that feeling of like I couldn't walk in here before, now I can walk in there more than, and now I can bomb.
Okay,
stuff.
So definitely below the Varia Suit. Spider Magnet, above or below?
I think above.
Okay,
for me.
All right.
If nothing else, it has legacy.
Yeah,
it could get into Yale.
Yeah, okay. It's still gonna cost an arm and a leg. All right. Others in the top here that, I mean, we're kind of dealing with Stone Cold Classics at this point. Is we've got the Flash Shift, the Morph Ball, the Phantom Cloak, which might be next actually. Speed Boosters, Space Jump, Screw Attack, Gravity Suit, and Storm Rockets.
Okay, so I will say, I think I like Storm Rockets more than I like Charge Beam, Wide Beam, or Wave Beam. And yet, like, that's probably where the limit on my love of Storm Rockets.
Okay.
I think it is cool. So basically, the Storm Rockets, it's another one where you like hold down R or something like that.
Yeah.
And it charges it up. And then you can point an enemy, or you can open doors by, there's like 5 little targets, and you sweep across and make sure that you're aiming at each of the targets, and it like remembers where you're aiming, and then will send off these
Like a little
5
swarm of missiles.
yeah, like missiles to blow them up. And that is cool. It looks cool. It is satisfying when you like puzzle out how to open doors. Sometimes like how are you
Yeah.
going to get all 5 of these to engage at the same time.
I also like it's a utility in fighting bosses and like other
Totally,
tougher enemies.
especially those like Chozo warriors.
Totally,
Like
yeah.
it's really useful there.
Yeah.
Because you can like there's a little like trick to it where if you're charged and you've aimed at them and then you do like some movement, it'll disengage, but other movements it'll remember that it's still charged, and so like
Right.
finding that sweet spot can be really satisfying.
And also when like you target the same enemy more than once because you find like multiple spots on him that you can target. Like there are those like robot things with the big red eye that you can target with all
Yeah.
5 missiles and it
Yeah.
just like annihilates them. I find that to be very pleasing.
I do like that, but the robots with the big red eye, they can also be defeated once you get the screw attack,
Yeah.
because those like will just mess up anything that's robotic, and so by the end you're just like screw attacking, and so you're just jumping your way through it, and when you hit
Right.
those the robots with the big red eye, they just crumble.
Right. Well, so I wonder if we need to address the screw attack and the space jump sort of in tandem. You get them pretty much right on top of each other, and when you are using the screw attack, you are almost always using the space jump as well. 'Cause
Yeah,
you're just
that's
like
true.
jumping nonstop. I like these attacks a lot. They are when you feel your most powerful, but they almost like turn the game into something different, right? Where you're just like you're just a wrecking ball at this point.
You are. It makes it way easier, and it
Yeah.
does feel really nice to get the space jump when you get it. And also, one thing I like about the space jump is there's like a rhythm
Yes.
to it that you have to stay on top of.
Yeah.
And so it adds like a little bit more skill to it. Not a lot, but
Yeah,
just
because
like
you can't just
enough
like
to make
jump
it.
freely.
You
in
just
the
you
air.
can't
Yeah.
just hit the button forever.
Right.
Like there's a certain rhythm in which you have to hit it. I will say that I'm in the same vein. I'm thinking of the gravity suit.
Yeah.
Which the gravity
Agreed.
suit is great because it really frees up your movement. Like in water, you can jump like normal, like all that kind of stuff, and that feels amazing.
And you can space jump in the water once you have the space jump too.
Yes, and
Yeah.
so together, like that feels amazing.
Plus, it makes her colors right again.
But the gravity suit to me, like, while it does feel like a relief, like it's cathartic to get the gravity suit and to have the freedom
Yes.
to move in
Yes.
the water and stuff, like it just is a reminder how annoying the water is without it.
I
And
agree with
so-
this entirely.
So
That-
like
yeah, that getting rid of an obstacle is not the same as giving you power, right? Like it just makes you go like, oh well, why did I have to deal with all the slow watery parts?
yeah.
And you're like, oh well, now it's not slow anymore. Now the water's fun, and you're like, well, couldn't have been fun the whole time. I like having fun over not having fun.
Yeah, and it's such a tricky balance because the whole Metroid thing
It's the whole
is
thing,
you know
yeah.
is like limiting your abilities and giving you a little bit at a time, and you just feel more powerful by the end. And it is a very tricky balance to have that feel like fun and have it or have it feel like it does with the gravity suit, where it's like taking a band-aid off and like a wound being able to like breathe.
Yes.
It's just a different
yes.
sort of satisfaction that is not as satisfying as some of the other power-ups for me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the ways that the game makes you powerful by showing you how powerless you were before.
Yeah.
And that's not as fun.
In like an arbitrary feeling type
in like
of
an
way.
arbitrary way, yeah. So maybe Gravity Suit is maybe our next to discuss here. I think I like it better than the grapple beam.
Oh, for sure. I
Okay.
like it because again, like there is something to be said for that catharsis
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
like being able to do it. Where it goes in relation to the screw attack or the space jump, for me, probably above the screw attack.
Do you like the space jump more than you like the screw attack?
Maybe that's not true.
Here's the thing that for me, it's almost impossible to separate those two. The space jump and the screw attack. I know that you know what? I was going to say I know that you get the screw attack after you get the space jump, but I think that's true. I don't know. I
I
just
don't
don't know.
remember either. How about in relation to these beams that we have, the charge beam, wide beam, and wave beam?
Yeah.
Um, I still kind of feel like the gravity suit is maybe above these for me.
Above all of them?
I think
You think
possibly.
we slot all the beams in between grapple beam and the gravity suit? We can do that temporarily and then
Yeah, I think we do
adjust
that
as
temporarily
we
because
go.
as you were saying that, I was thinking maybe the gravity suit is below charge beam but above wide beam and wave beam.
I agree with that. So let's
Okay, let's do that
use
then.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Gravity suit charge beam. All right. Meaning that we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the top 7. We think storm rockets, morph ball, speed booster, phantom cloak, screw attack, space jump.
Let's talk
Flash
about
shift.
Speed Booster and Phantom Cloak because we haven't really mentioned them at all. Speed Booster is another one that I think maybe has slipped under the radar and potentially is not as high as it is, or at least is at the bottom of this top 7 because it is fine. It makes you run fast. You can Shine Spark, which Shine Sparking is where you speed boost and then you like hit a button combination and you turn this glowy purple and you're like storing that speed boost energy so you can dash like leap very high in a direction. And one thing that I actually didn't realize until I was going back trying to get some of these more difficult items is you can like multi shine spark if you like cancel it. So you shine spark and not let it don't hit a wall or
Don't
anything.
collide with
Don't
anything.
collide. You like and then you can it's like be in down or something like that to store it again and then you can shine spark immediately after. And truthfully, I've never been able to pull that off. Like it's not something that I do, but it's cool that you can do it.
I mean, I think that the speed booster and its implementation in this game, I think it is the best the speed booster has ever been, or the speed boost, speed boots, or whatever they've been called in the past. That like the way that this game builds puzzles around Samus's ability to maintain momentum and like dodge under stuff, jump over stuff, and like keep running fast. So that you can execute the Shine
fast.
Spark. You got to go fast. It's just really, really smart. And one of the ways that the game like rewards you with almost like a new set of systems after you've been playing it for like halfway through.
That's a good point.
For my money, I think the speed booster and the speed booster as it is in this game and the flash shift are two of the biggest like best abilities in this game, sort of as they are additions to the franchise, which I understand I may be favoring novelty there over just like how they are in the actual game. But I think they're both very good.
Let's talk about the Phantom Cloak.
Yeah.
So it's an ability that you get maybe halfway through the game, maybe the latter half of the game, and the Phantom Cloak it is a cloaking ability. Where they kind of like show it off in the game as the tutorial is when you're in a section with an Emmy, the Emmy can sense you and they can sense you through like walls. Like they have a very large range that they can sense you. But if you have engaged the Phantom Cloak, they cannot see you. The trade-off is that if you are moving while you're in the Phantom Cloak,
you move so slow.
You move very slow, and you run out of like the energy to use it, and then it's and then an Emmy's gonna be on you, and it's very difficult to like regain the energy to engage it again.
But especially when you first get it, and the first like couple times you use it against an Emmy, it's awesome to like.
It is very freeing
to just trick it.
Yeah.
Where like it's coming at you and you're like, oh no, what am I gonna do? You turn invisible. The Emmy like stands there for a second. It scans where you are and is like, well, I don't see her. Turns around and goes the other way.
Yeah. My memory is that like if an Emmy has spotted you and you can't, if you engage the Phantom Cloak, they still know that you're there.
Yeah.
But if you get like a screen away or like enough distance away, that is not like an incredible amount of distance.
Yeah.
That the Emmy like loses sight of you enough that then you can engage it. So for that reason,
if it's in pursuit mode, then you can't turn invisible to get away.
So for that reason, I really liked the Phantom Cloak. I didn't end up using it that much. I'm wondering if this is another flash shift where like I should have been using it more.
See, I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't use it very much, to the point where there was a like a doorway that I needed to go through and not be seen. And I got stuck there for a while where I was like, how the heck am I supposed to get through this? Because I forgot that I had the Phantom Cloak.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point though. That is another like utility for it. So just like the flash shift, there's certain doors that like you can flash shift through so they don't close automatically. There are other doors where like if it senses your presence, it won't open, and so you have to use the Phantom Cloak on it.
Yeah. But I don't think it is a secretly super useful one unless there's some utility that I also never discovered.
Yeah. So do you think below that Phantom Cloak feels like a good candidate for like next on our list?
Maybe even below Charge Beam.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. And
okay.
Above Gravity Suit, below Gravity Suit?
For my money, I'm going to say above Gravity Suit.
Okay.
What do you think? You think
I think I'm good with that for now.
Okay.
And should we? This is just how we're going to do this. Should we just make like a second?
I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
We're just breaking up where they are positioned on the table to just make room.
We need like a boardroom conference table where we can lay these all out in like a row.
That's right. Well, we got 23 power ups here. Remember. Okay. So. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so
we'll do the top 10 in that row.
Top 10 that we're dealing with right now, and I feel weird having the wide beam at the bottom of the top 10. Like top 10, really? Anyway, so far, just the top 10.
That is weird.
Doesn't it seem weird?
That does, yeah.
We may need to go shopping below here to start promoting
Super Missile, we're looking at you.
No, we are not. Well, actually, should we start at the bottom? Now we're here. So at the bottom, number 23 is Super Missile.
Followed by the Ice Missile.
And then the Cross Bomb.
Then the Pulse Radar.
Then the Plasma Beam.
Spin Boost.
Diffusion Beam.
Spider Magnet.
Morph Ball Bomb.
A Varia Suit.
Power Bomb.
Grapple Beam.
And then Wave Beam is number 11, which means number 10 currently
is the Wide Beam.
9 is the Gravity Suit.
Then the Phantom Cloak.
7 is the Charge Beam. And then we have to deal with our top 6 Storm Rockets, Speed Booster, Screw Attack, Morph Ball, Space Jump, and Flash Shift. I feel like we're not really locked in stone on a lot of these.
Yeah, I agree. Because Space Jump is one that, I mean, I guess we did talk about it in relation to the Screw Attack.
Tell you what, I think the Space Bomb is not as good as the Charge Beam.
The Space Jump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are putting that between the
man, this is tough because the Space Jump, it is so nice to be able to move freely.
Truly.
And the Charge Beam doesn't really I guess here's where I struggle with the Charge Beam is that I think in your gameplay the Charge Beam is just kind of like taken for granted. But in the, like in Samus's movements after she's defeated a boss, like, like her finishing moves and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The Charge Beam is very cool. But as you're using it as the player, the Charge Beam is not that neat.
Yeah. In fact, it's almost more of an obligation to have to charge it just so you can be strong enough to deal damage.
Yeah. So that's where I'm like, not entirely sure what to do with the Charge Beam.
Okay, well, let's just for the time being put the Space Jump above it.
Here's what's kind of weird about this list, and I don't know if you're feeling the same thing.
Yeah,
is that a lot of these items are not none of them feel like top 10 worthy. You know what I mean? There's like I think there's a strong top 5, and then there's a
that is true in that the top 5 that we have right now, unranked, Storm Rocket, Speed Booster, Screw Attack, Morph Ball, Flash Shift, feel like top 5 to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of beyond that, I don't know. A Space Jump, Charge Beam, Phantom Cloak, Gravity Suit, Wide Beam. They feel like the rest of the.
You think it's just the?
I mean, maybe not the Wide Beam.
Yeah, that's the one that keeps throwing us for a loop. But let's move forward. I think it'll shake itself out.
Okay, all right. But great to acknowledge that the list has gotten strange, and what we're dealing with is a weird a weird ranking. Mark, of these 5, Storm Rocket, Speed Booster, Screw Attack, Morph Ball, Flash Shift, what do you like? Like, what of these top 5 are you like, yes, that's iconic, that's incredible, I love it?
It is hard for me to say anything bad about the Morph Ball.
Yeah.
It is.
May I?
Please.
So, I also love the Morph Ball. It is an iconic piece of Metroid hardware. It is great that the game deploys it so late because you miss it. Like, you genuinely miss it as you're playing. I'm a little bit bummed that they don't do anything active with it.
They don't do anything active with it.
Yeah. And I think about its utility in the Prime games and even in Other M, where like it is fun to do the ball sections because they are tangibly different. Whereas the ball in this game didn't feel, I don't know, it didn't feel like you were doing anything different. You were just small.
Yeah, I mean,
There's no point where you're like building up momentum in half pipes, which I know is just the Prime thing, or even like the shift in Prime from first person to third person. It just didn't feel like they knew exactly what to do with it. They just knew they had to use it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It is such a triumphant moment. It feels so good when you get the Morph Ball in this game. But I agree that like the biggest thing that they do with it is those little like cannons that you go in, you lay a bomb, and then it shoots you from the room you're in to another room.
Yes.
And yeah, it just didn't feel. I think what I wanted from it was to be more like puzzly. Like I wanted to use it to like solve puzzles. And there are times where you get like rocket upgrades or missile upgrades and that kind of stuff with it, but it never felt truly satisfying. And really, I think the gold standard for this is Metroid Prime.
Totally.
Like those segments in Metroid Prime are really fun, and that's kind of what I compare this to. And so really the highlight of the Morph Ball in this game is getting the Morph Ball.
Yes,
finally,
which is a truly magical moment and possibly makes it worthy of inclusion in our top 5. I could also see it sliding down, but it is such a hype moment when you get it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the like number of like games journalists on Twitter that I saw like freaking out when they got it. Because like it is just a genuinely exciting thing to happen.
So yeah, let's put it at number 5 for now.
Okay, it is at 5 above the space jump for right now.
And so I think maybe Storm Rockets comes after that for me. I like the Storm Rockets. I think the Storm Rockets are nice. I think they're neat. I enjoy Storm Rockets, but I just don't think they can stand up to
the other three.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think we also need to just talk for a second here. Where did these rockets come from? Right? Like we were using missiles before, missiles and beams, and then all of a sudden we got rockets.
Yeah, that's true.
It'd be like if all of a sudden she was like lightning torpedoes. What are we talking about? Okay. Storm Rockets coming in at number 4. We are left with the Flash Shift, the Speed Booster, and the Screw Attack.
Man, I'm sorry. This list is weirding me out because I think this is the right top 5 out of the items we have, and yet I do not feel really strongly about this top 3.
You mean like that the order they should come in, or just like in general?
I think like the order. Like I don't know that there's a number 1 with a bullet for me, a number 1 with a rocket.
So there's a number 1 with a Storm Rocket for me, and I've already shown my bias that I think that the Flash Shift, for me, changed the way I was conceptualizing the game. It changed how I moved around the world and how I fought things. I think if we get another 2D Metroid game and there is no Flash Shift in it, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's a challenging number 1 for me because I didn't use
you don't like it
in combat. I don't. It's not that I don't like it.
You don't like it, Mark.
I don't. And yet, I respect your opinions on things Metroid so much that I don't like want to fight it that much, especially like comparing it against the Speed Booster or the Screw Attack. Like I don't have super strong arguments for a speed booster or screw attack as being like the thing. And
Yeah.
so maybe like it makes sense then to crown the new ability that was introduced in Metroid Dread as like the best ability in Metroid Dread.
I do think a strong case could also be made for the speed booster, just because of the Shine Spark puzzles. That like when you get that ability, it opens up a new kind of puzzle that the game has secretly been deploying everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. And it's used in a way like again, you can get through the game and not have to master
Yeah.
the speed booster, which to me is a virtue that they are not like
Yeah.
they don't, like gate the game around being able to shine spark all over the place. Because I think it's hard.
It is
I think
hard.
it's really hard to
Yeah.
like figure that out. So I like that it's there as just like
Oh,
a
it's-
reward.
It's tough to master, right? Like the places where you do have to use the speed booster and like the occasional Shine Spark, manageable.
Yeah, sorry. I definitely mean like the parts, like the
Yeah.
puzzles where it's like, oh, if you want this piece of energy tank, you're gonna have to like
Yeah,
shine spark
chain
like
these things
3
together,
times,
yeah.
which I just find impossible. But
Yeah.
I do think you're right that like the game is fair in that, oh, if you needed to advance in the game, that it is possible to do it.
Yeah. So I think that's the only other argument that could be made for the number one spot, unless you just want to say that the screw attack, which is like the sort of last thing that you get before it's like, okay, now I start my assault on Ravenbeak, just feels very powerful.
Yeah.
And always does, right? Because you are turned into a ball of energy that is flying around the screen, just destroying fools.
Yes. Yeah, I feel good about this top 3. And I actually think this is the order that I would do it in. Screw attack number 3, speed booster number 2, and flash shift number 1.
Wow. Okay. I think that's right. Let's just quickly review the bottom of our top 10. Because we got the wide beam coming in at
It
number
does feel
10,
really weird.
which I like, but let's just do a gut check and let's measure it against some other beams. Wave beam. Better than which is better, the wave beam or the wide beam?
I think the wide beam.
I think the wide beam too. But let's keep sort of, because maybe then the wave beam is too high. Wide beam better or worse than grapple beam?
I find the grapple beam more satisfying, I think.
Okay.
I've got to say, I actually think I like the grapple beam more than I like the wave beam.
Okay.
I would put the grapple beam in the bottom of our top 10.
All right. So that's and then wide beam above wave beam.
Sure.
Or
well, what do you? I mean, yeah, I think that's right. I do think that's right.
I mean, I feel like it is a the difference between them is so narrow that like
it's only 2 letters.
Hey, I mean, that's true. But I think that's right. So,
do you know what? I have to tell you, Patrick, moving
Yeah.
the grapple beam to number 10 and moving wide beam and wave beam out of the top 10, like,
does that feel better for you?
I feel way more enthusiastic about our top 10.
Great. Okay, so let's lock the top 10. I think that's right. Is there any in the bottom 13 that you want to reevaluate? Or should we start counting them from the bottom, and when we encounter something that doesn't feel right, we adjust it?
Yeah, this is really small. But I think I like Spider Magnet more than I like the Morph Ball Bomb.
Okay, and still not as good as the Varia Suit?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I would put it above the Varia Suit.
Okay,
but-
let's do that.
Okay, great. There we go. Again, really angry about the way it messes up her color palette.
Let's see. And so now we have the diffusion beam
Below
below
the
the
Morph-
Morph Ball Bomb.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, Mark, are you ready to go through this to
Yes, let's
recount
do
from
it.
the bottom? Okay, coming in at number 23, the Super Missile.
Number 22 is the Ice Missile.
Number 21, the Cross Bomb.
Number 20, the Pulse Radar.
Number 19, the Plasma Beam.
Number 18, the Spin Boost.
Number 17, the Diffusion Beam.
Number 16, the Morph Ball Bomb.
Number 15, the Varia Suit.
Number 14, the Spider Magnet.
Number 13, the Power Bomb.
Number 12, the Wave Beam.
Number 11, Wide Beam.
And in our top 10, number 10, the Grapple Beam.
Number 9, the Gravity Suit.
Number 8, the Phantom Cloak.
Number 7, Charge Beam.
Number 6, the Space Jump.
Number 5, Morph Ball.
Number 4, the storm rockets.
And our number 3 is the screw attack.
And number 2, the speed booster.
And coming in at number 1, the best power-up in Metroid Dread, the Flash Shift. All right, Mark, let's close this out. That was incredible. I'm exhausted. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. You know, I, for whatever reason, moving that grapple beam into the top 10 changed my enthusiasm for this list immensely.
Yeah, I think we landed on something right when we got there. Not that everything was wrong before, but something was off.
No, but this is truly definitive.
Yeah,
sure.
This is truly definitive. This is our definitive list. But what do you think, listener? What do you think we are undervaluing? What are we overvaluing? And don't say novelty, because I know that already. You can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and let us know what you thought of this list or what changes you would make to it. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. We appreciate it when you do. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MK Mitchell, and the show is at Nincart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.
Imagine a podcast. Now, imagine a musical. Now, imagine the two of them made 1 million babies. Well, you don't have to imagine it, because it's real, and it has a name. 1 million musicals. Each month, we bring you a brand new, original podcast musical featuring talent from across Broadway, films, and TV. You'll hear tales of spooky ghosts, Wild West shootouts, adventures on the high seas, and much, much more. 1 million musicals. Only a few 100,000 to go.
A Campfire Media podcast.
Campfire.